Well, this is the island of Elba, snuggled away in the Mediterranean, and they host the start of the 1993 Giro d'Italia. Well, the Giro has very often been overshadowed by the Tour de France, and I can't understand why, because it's created its own heroes. Riders like Fausto Coppi and Eddy Merckx wrote their names in the history books in this event. All the top riders in the world will be here to take part in this year's Giro. From America, there's Andy Hampson and Greg LeMond. Miguel Indurain is back, the first Spanish rider ever to win the Giro. But let's not forget the Italians, they're fighting on home ground. Gianni Bugno and Claudio Chiappucci would surely want to win this event. But let's not forget a rider many are talking about this year, Maurizio Fondries, who's been at the top since he won Milan-San Remo earlier in the season. But on this island, before we go into our own battle, let's think about another big fighter. That's Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most famous inhabitants of the island. He was exiled here by the British in 1814 before he escaped after 9 months to go back to France and regain his own army. From there, he marched on to Waterloo. The result of that battle we know. The result of the Tour of Italy is a little bit more in suspense to us. We will go straight into the action with 88 kilometers around this rugged island, followed by a 9-kilometer time trial in the afternoon. So this year, it won't be a long march till we get to the mountains. The Tour of Italy is going to start from the word go.
Thank you, Paul Sherwin there, 7 times a rider in the Tour de France, joining me now as we pick up the 76th Tour of Italy. 20 teams receiving the traditional blessing here on the island of Elba. 12 of them are from Italy, an imbalance quite common in the Tour of Italy. But one rider who's come here very often is Andy Hampson, and he loves the race. Why?
Well, I think I can relax a little bit more here. I'm not quite as serious as the Italians. I don't get right in on the pressure. I like to win. I like the race. I'm comfortable here in Italy. And it's a great race. There's a lot of things that are equal to the Tour, but one of the things that isn't is the pressure, at least on myself. And it's a lot of fun. I try to keep my sense of humor and just ride with my leg.
Well, Greg, it's nice to come back to the Tour of Italy. In the past, you've missed this race, but when you've had your big successes, you've used this race as part of your training.
Almost well, 85, 86, I had my best tours. I did both the Tour of Italy in those 2 years, and then 89 and 90. It's been a race that saved my Tour de France and my season. For some reason, I find I really refined my condition and my weight, and everything comes together after this race.
The first stage today, 76 Giro d'Italia from Porto Rizzurro to Portoferraio. And the riders now are going to show us some beautiful countryside here around the island of Elba, 85 kilometres, some 53 miles. This is a morning stage. They're facing the first important time trial this afternoon. And this is the only climb of the day, the Marciana climb. And this is Bruno Leali, leading a small group away from the front, and it looks as though he's building a little bit of daylight. Bruno Leali, I think he's got Moreno Argentine with him. And these 3 riders going clear, one rider trying to latch onto the back. Not surprisingly, the Italians right out on the attack on this very first day of the Tour of Italy. Leali, Argentine, and David Cassani is the other rider. This is Leali we're looking at here. The greatest victory of his career came back in 1987 when he won the National Championship of Italy, riding on the Carrera team then. Same team as Stephen Roach that year when he went to win the Tour of Italy, Tour de France, and indeed the World Championship. Only one other rider ever done the big triple, and that is Eddy Merckx back in 1974. Well, this breakaway looks as though it may have slipped the field here on the final kilometres into the finish at Portoferraio. They're over the hills now, and 31 kilometres to go. We're down on the south of Elba here. It's a beautiful, beautiful island. It abounds with chestnut trees. It's famous for its nuts. And this is Arietta from Miguel Indurain's Banesto team. And already, the winner of a year ago, Miguel Indurain, has ordered the Banesto team to start the chase. So quite clearly, Indurain is back here, determined to defend his #1 position in the Giro d'Italia. And the whole team has been sent to the front to try and close down this gap. So quite clearly, this is the man they fear most, Moreno Argentine. It's not long ago, in fact, since he said that he would think of retiring this year. He's only had a 5th place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, a race which he has won no fewer than 4 occasions. There's Bruno Leali. And other riders in this breakaway, Marco Seligari, Vladimir Pulnikov, Massimo Girotto, Leali and Zenon Jaskula. Jaskula, 153 there, the only Polish rider in the race. But now so many former Eastern Bloc nations are now spending their time, especially in Italy, where the climate suits them and the racing does indeed as well. The other rider in this breakaway, Stéphane Calaget, won the Grand Prix, a series of wins in fact. He won 3 races down in Colombia right at the start of the season, including the Grand Prix Pony Malta. And this little breakaway has blended into a very smooth working group now. Long-term winners of the Tour of Italy, and that's what Indurain will be thinking about as he sees a time gap of 1 minute. Well, quite honestly, only Argentine here. Massimo Girotto is a very strong rider, never stops trying to win stages in big stage races. He won 2 in the Tour de France, and look at this now, Argentine is going away. This is on the climb of Il Monumento, the last climb of the day, about 19 kilometers to go to the finish, and Argentine here is wanting to prove a point. The Mecchia team, I think it was Jascula there trying to limit the attack here of Argentine, but he's in his rhythm. And this is a rider, Moreno Argentine, who has 4 times won Liège-Bastogne-Liège. They used to call him the king of the Ardennes because he's also won the Flèche Wallonne and the Tour de Flanders indeed, in the Flanders side of Belgium. A man for the Spring Classics. He didn't do any good at all in Belgium this year. He's even talked about retiring from the sport. 32 years of age, over the top of the climb, and he's still clear. And a lovely crowd here on a most beautiful island in lovely warm conditions. That's where we are, top of Il Monumento. It's only a small little climb, brings the riders up to 261 meters above sea level, but remember they've built that height from scratch, climbing from the basement right up elevation of 261. Now it's down to the bottom again. Porto Ferreo, next stop, and Argentina's got the gap. Well, this is the sort of escape you may remember when he won Milan-San Remo, or rather when he didn't win Milan-San Remo he had, and it was Sean Kelly who came across 2 years ago and beat him right on the line. And the little group that Argentina's left is holding their own as well. And it's being left to Bruno Leali to do the chasing, along with David Cassani. Cassani, a former teammate last year of Argentina, who's changed teams now. He's gone across to the Mecchia team from the Ariostia team. And just look at this. Well, he's won this one because he's putting the glasses on. That's always a good sign. He knows now he's getting ready for the finish, and he's going to give the salute, and it's a victory for Moreno Argentine. And this is the race for second place now. Vladimir Pulnikov and Saligari's going to beat Pulnikov to the line. Saligari gets it, Pulnikov is second, and the time gap 35 seconds on the line to Moreno Argentine, and the field right up behind them on the line as well. So the first ever Maglia Rosa for Moreno Argentine, who takes the early lead in the Tour of Italy, and this from a man who really didn't expect to do so much. Hardly time for a rest, and the rider's now in action in the short time trial. This is Stephen Roche, former winner in 1987. And Roche now trying to land at the short time trial here around the island of Elba, just 9 kilometers, based on the Finnish town of Portoferreo. And Roche riding out his final Tour of Italy after a wonderful career, highlighted in 1987 when he won this race after a great battle with his teammate Vicentini, which became at times most unpleasant. So Stephen Roche, it's a short burst for Stephen. He prefers a longer test, and this is going to be maybe a top 15 finish for Roche as he comes up, and he gets top 13. Now teammate and friend Claudio Chiappucci, king of the mountains last year in the Giro d'Italia. This rider would have been among the greats of world cycling if it hadn't been for one Miguel Indurain, because he's always stopped him claiming the top position in the big tours. He's underway, and here's the man that prevents him from that great moment. Miguel Indurain, last to go, and number 1 on his bike frame as the winner of the Tour of Italy. The first ever Spanish winner, and indeed, of course, the only Spanish winner of the Tour of Italy last year. Now time to defend his championship. He's on the road as Chiappucci comes to the finish. Let's have a look what sort of time we can expect now from Chiappucci. The time to beat is a good one. Eddie Signor of France, the new French professional, has done 10:43.1, reliving his great team time trialling days as an amateur. And Chiappucci is on a good time for him. Second best time, 10:49.2, just 6 seconds slower than Seigneur. And now we're looking at Maurizio Fondries making his start, who's having a tremendous season, without doubt his finest season since he turned professional in 1987, and then went on to controversially win the World Championship when Steve Bauer and Claudio Caquillon fought it out quite literally just yards from the finish. And this is a very, very good time indeed. He's leading at the checks, and you can believe this. He's ahead of Miguel Indurain, Maurizio Fondries. He's had such a wonderful start to the year. He won Tirreno Adriatico, he won a stage of the Ruta del Sol, Milan San Remo was his, the Flèche Wallonne was his, and look at Indurain now as he comes to the finish. Indurain challenging now Seigneur's time of 10:43, he's going to beat that. That's to be expected, I think. Miguel Indurain has proved himself to be virtually unbeaten in the time trials, and he's holding that right now. 2.6 seconds better than Eddie Seigneur. And now Fondries, they're saying he is quicker at the checkpoints, and this will really be a surprise if he comes home with the best time. As Maurizio is heading for the line, he's a completely changed man this year. Gianni Bugno, the world champion, out on the road. And meanwhile, at the start house, the leader this morning, after the stage victory, Moreno Argentin, waiting for the start. His right is the Maglia Rosa. And Argentine is underway. Not the best of time trials. He might be inspired today, though. Now he's the race leader for the first time ever in the Tour of Italy. Here's Fondries further along the road, still looking very, very smooth indeed and full of fight. He's never, in fact, won a time trial since he turned professional 5-6 years ago now. But he's going to run, he's going to win, he's going to beat this time. Indurain is going to be bettered, and look at that, 2.1 seconds better over 9 kilometres. That really is a turn up for the book. Fondries now is top of the leaderboard. Bugno, who is a good time trialist, but he rarely beats Miguel Indurain. He's not going to do it again this time. He's a little bit down the pan, but Argentin, fourth time of Bugno, is now fifth of Chiappucci. So Argentin has done a good ride for him. 10 seconds slower than the leader, and this is Greg LeMond coming home. But LeMond is going to be maybe top 20 here. He's a little bit down off the pace. He's not finding the sort of form that has taken him to the top in these short bursts in the Tour de France over years gone by. He's still struggling to find the finesse that he once had. Difficult days for Greg LeMond. Outside, 28 seconds off the pace for him. And Andy Hampson also. If only he could time trial, he would win these stage races so much more easily, or at least stay among the leaders. He's not a good time trialist, and Hampson again is not finding the time trial to his liking. Dropping right out here. He's going to be into the 70s by the time he gets to the line, as Andy Hampson finishes 72nd. But the surprise of the day, no doubt about it, Maurizio Fondries gets his first time trial win as a professional and beats Miguel Indurain. Stephen Roach, 25th in the time trial. But is it his last race?
Well, you know, it's now 13 years on the road, so it's not getting any easier. And like I've always, the last couple of years, I've had a lot of trouble with my knee, my back, and everything like that. It's taken a lot of stick out of my morally. It's taken a lot out of me. So now I'd like to just kind of have a good season this year, finishing well up in the Giro and the Tour, and then call it a day.
The day Roach retires will be a sad day for world cycling. He's been great. Moreno Argentin, though, is now the leader of the Giro d'Italia for the first time in his 13-year career, as the riders all say goodbye now to the island of Elba. Now here's a Napoleonism for you. Able was I ere I saw Elba. If you say it backwards, it'll say the same thing. It's a palindrome. And so on to the second stage of 229 kilometres from Grosseto to Rieti. Just a small climb, the Castelfranco climb near the end, bringing the riders up to over 600 metres. It should be the sort of finish for the sprinters, although they might find at the climb at the end a little bit of a problem. Miguel Indurain has made a perfect start, just lying off the lead there in third place. He must be a little bit surprised, though, at having been beaten in the time trial. And this is an attack by Michele Capolino, who comes from the Navigera team. 37 kilometres from the finish. Well, the Italians will all take their chances here. They grossly outnumber the foreign entry, as they always do. Race in excess of 3,700 kilometres. Moreno Argentin looking a little bit concerned here and talking to his Mecchia team. and now wants a little bit more action out, I think. He doesn't want to lose that jersey. He sees himself holding it for the first 2 weeks of this race if he can, although he's got one long time trial to come which might well see it swing towards Indurain. But this is a big moment now for Moreno, proving to the Tifosi that he's really back in a big way. At 32 years of age, he's been a pro for 13 seasons. It's a long time to stay professional. There's Capellillo. But he's not going to work. As we head on to the Castelfranco climb, the old legs have given out and it's back into the complete field here. And it is now Argentine's team who's got control of the head of the race. Well, when you have the leader on your squad, you've got to do most of the work. The rainbow jersey of world champion worn by Gianni Bugno down there, and just sitting behind him is Prudencia Indurain, not Miguel, because brother Prudencia is riding. And now an attack by Claudio Chiappucci. Well, this is the gadfly of world cycling. He attacks whenever he senses a drop in the pace, but Bugno is right on him here. And it's Indurain as well who's got him. So the big three over previous tours are now at the head of the race. And Luc Leblanc, the champion of France, was also there. This is now Franco Coccioli, who has won the Tour of Italy before. And now trying a lone attack. This constant attacking quite often can develop a breakaway. As they head up towards the Castelfranco climb. And this is one of the small teams, the Mappe riders, coming up, and it looks as though it might well be Della Santa who's caught him up. Stefano Della Santa, I think it was, who's latched on to the back. So we've got two riders in front, but the whole line is after them now. As they go over the top of the climb, they're on the way down. It's all downhill towards the finish. And now we're getting up to some reasonable speed here as they chase down towards the line at Rieti. And this is Bruno Kengialta in the lead. And look at this, Miguel Indurain has gone for him. Now that is unusual. Indurain really won't be thinking of Kengialta as a dangerous rival for a prospective win in the Giro d'Italia. Kengialta's stage winner indeed in the Tour de France in the past. But this looks as though it's a show of defiance by Indurain. He wants to remind the rest that he is not just going to sit back and wait for the time trials. He's gone again. Smarting perhaps at losing to Fondriest in that short time trial yesterday. And now just 4 kilometres to go to the line. And inside 3 kilometres to go now. And they've swept them up indeed. So they wouldn't allow Indurain to go away like that. Indurain, too much of a strong man in the time trials to gain time in the road races would really be the end for the rest of the ride. It's going to be a sprint finish now. It's taken a little while to bring them all together, but they've come together now. And after 5 hours and 52 minutes, it looks like it's going to be a battle of the sprinters now. Little Adriano Baffi is coming through, and on the line it's going to be Baffi. Baffi takes it on the inside. Marco Saligari was second. It looked as though Dmitry Konishev was third. Overall, though, Argentine had the day he wanted. Retained his 36-second advantage over Fondriest, 38 over Indurain. Saligari, who scored second place there, up to fourth. So we go on, 157 kilometres today for the third stage, which takes them down to Rieti to Scano. And Maurizio Fondriest, having made a wonderful start. Not so, of course, for Gianni Bugno, but he doesn't look too unhappy, does he? The man who won the race back in 1990. And the man that won it last year, first Spanish rider ever, Miguel Indurain, looking a little bit pensive, but happy with the way the race has gone so far. These are the early days, of course. And two great friends back on the team when Roche won the Tour of Italy in 1987. Claudio Chiappucci, now the star of the team. The riders now facing up to the 151 kilometres to Scano. Again, it's hot and humid weather conditions here. And this is Mario Chiesa, who started the attack at the front. And Fabio Roscioli, who's never won a race as a professional, by the way. But it doesn't stop him trying. He's a very strong domestique, a team rider. And Carrera have got both riders clear, which is rather unusual, but they really are a strong team. race now, 32 kilometers from the finish here, just passed through the village of Sulmona. And the Mechia riders are now marking. That's Luc Leblanc, who's come on to the back as well. Ugrimov is the Mechia rider who's come up here. The gap is 30 seconds. And the Kelme rider who latched on in the green shorts there is Herman Buenajara. It's Buenajara who's setting the pace into the tunnel. Let's hope they come out the other side. Stunning scenery. The Tour of Italy now makes its way towards the finish in Scano. This little group of 4 riders. Luc Leblanc stands out well, number 3 in line in the tricolour jersey as champion of France. He'll be defending that title in a couple of weeks. And surprisingly, it is the Banesto riders here who are having to take up the chase. Now, you would normally expect to see Argentine with his men at the front, but he's got a man in that breakaway in Peter Ugrimov, a rider who climbs very well, by the way. There he is sitting at the back, number 132, 10 kilometers to go to the finish. And Ugrimov is the sort of rider, you know, could spring a surprise. And Argentine is now forcing Indurain's team to chase. Luc Leblanc is up here as well. And the other rider here, by the way, is Carlos Hernandez, former champion of Spain, a couple of years back now. And that's the sort of gap they've got. 2 riders who were dropped from that lead group. In fact, they're coming up. That is Stephen Roach there, who's coming up, and he's bringing along one of the riders from the San Roman, I think it is, from the Indurain's team, Francisco San Roman. So those 2 are chasing, and the gap is 25 seconds at Maria Rosa group. To the leading group is 25 seconds. That's Argentine's bunch, with Roach and San Roman in between. And if we look up to the top of the field there, they're not too far behind. These 2 are coming back. Well, we're heading up toward Villa Largo now. And this, we're looking at Roach, and sitting at the back doing no work at all and along for the ride here, San Roman. 7.4 kilometers to go. It's a long, steady climb, this. It's a sort of climb that Stephen Roach likes as they come up towards the leaders, and they've got them. Roach is immediately going through to the front to see what sort of reaction he gets. Well, Ugrimov is going with him. Ugrimov now trying to profit from this attack as the main field begins to fragment on the climb, especially at the back there. A lot of steady tempo riding being done. They're trying to limit the losses of that breakaway group, and it's a long, long climb. Passing around the edge of Scano Lake. And this little group is swelling at the front. Cocchioli has got across here now. And I think Enrico Zainer is here from the Mercatoni team. That's him coming up on the outside. Roberto Conti from Ariosti is up here. Valerio Tabaldi, who's pulled out a couple of good stage wins in the Tour de France in years gone by, usually on his own. But the whole field is closing down. So the steady tempo riding, largely done by Indurain's Banesto team, has closed this. Rider tried to sprint off the front and escaped across the top and maybe snatched the stage win. This is Franco Coccioli at the front. Well, he's in second place now. He slipped back one. And rider number 53 is Roberto Conti, a very good climber. We'll be looking forward to our trip through the Dolomites. And Luc Leblanc very prominent here all day today. Number 66 is Carlos Hernandez, sitting at the back, and we're lining up for the finish here. I don't think they're going to catch them now. Now, wouldn't it be great if Roche could pull it off, but Ugrimov has got the lead. Ugrimov has got the lead. He's the man that's been the surprise member of the breakaway, and the Mechia team have worked well to keep him up there, and he's going to do it. So that's a great win for Peter Ugrimov, and a bonus for Argentine's Mechia team, because Ugrimov is now up into second place overall, 26 seconds behind his teammate. So the Mechia team have got the top 2 slots overall. 179 kilometers, stage number 4 from Scano to Marcinisa. All downhill away from the Apennines, although the riders may not agree with it. And the big field today early on has caused quite a few problems. Among the fallers, Greg LeMond, who's crashed twice, Stephen Roach, who's crashed, and indeed the Gann team having an unhappy day, because Eddie Seigneur and Laurent Bezo have also gone down for the Gann team. They've had a long day today chasing at the back. This is an attack here by Eduardo Chozas we're looking at. The main field, although they know shows as a great lone expert and has won stages with his lone attacks, he's not going to challenge for the overall lead at the moment. And the Artitach team manager here having a word with Eduardo. Still 35 kilometers to go to the finish. Shows as out in front. He's been out there now for some 45 kilometers today. And the tempo nice and steady, 29 kilometers left to go. The last king of the mountains as they descend now towards the finish. Not too far above sea level. And there he is on the right, and they've wiped him up. 50 kilometers he's out in front. And now the field again has come together, and the sprinters are going to try and have their day. 25 kilometers to go to the finish. And it looks like an attack there from Gianni Bugno. Well, this is a cheeky move by the world champion. Winner of the Giro d'Italia back in 1990, and that's when he shot to become world number one. He led from start to finish, and those were the great days for him. But now he doesn't have that confidence this year. He doesn't seem to get things quite straight, mentally more than physically. And again, he's seen the field react, and he's come back into the group. Jojo Ferlin has gone off the front now, former teammate of Bugno and a classic winner in Belgium. The Ariostia team, I think they've lost the leader in Argentine this year, but they're still attacking him almost as if by a vengeance. But the field have got Ferlin in the sights. They're holding him right there. Just about 6 kilometers to go now as the riders line up for the finish. There's Ferlin back in the pack on the right. And this has brought the Mercatoni Uno riders back into play now for Adriano Baffi, the sprinter, who's having a good tour so far. And now they've got their men right on the front here. But they'll have to watch out because they've got the Gatorade boys up there as well. And look at that man on the right, that's Indurain, who was right up there. Took a look over his shoulder, he's peeled away to stay out of the battle of the sprinters as they take themselves on now head to head, and it's Fabriano Baldato here in the centre and Manzoni of Gatorade, and it looks as though Baffi is out of this one because right on the line Baldato gets it. Mario Manzoni is second, Leone was third, Baffi in fact only finishing fifth. Overall no change, and Ugrimov stays in second place, Fondriest, Indurain, Sagliari in that order. 212 kilometres now, the fifth stage from Paestum to Termi Luigiani. And this is a town famous for its Greek colonies of years gone by, magnificent temples that were built more than 2,500 years ago. They were in fact overgrown and forgotten for 1,000 years until the King of Naples decided to build a road across the plain. And this is a sight of pure courage from this man here who rides his bike every year to the Tour of Italy to see the riders. A tremendous achievement. The riders back on the road. It was a quiet start to the day, but they're beginning to step up the pace a little bit now. Heading up towards the only climb of the day of note. It's coming just before the 12-kilometre point. It's in Trero. And there's still been a little bit of action, but the attacks all day have been caught. Bjorn Ries has been in the action all day, had a breakaway early on, so too did Aldag of the Telecom team, and Andy Hampson was in an early move, but he's been swept up as well. And now at 7 kilometres to go, it looks like we're starting an attack. Dmitry Konishev, who's trying to go clear. He too has also been testing the water today. Finally got away from the TVM team, which he was very unhappy riding with. He didn't seem to get on with the manager of that team, Case Priem, but now he rides for the Jolly team. You may remember him for winning the last stage in the Tour de France, the year that Jamaluddin Abdul-Jabbarov went down with such a collision on the barriers 2 years ago. He was the man that snatched the honours, rather surprising was too. That was his second stage in that year too, in the Tour de France. And now on this very, very technical descent, he's holding on. It looks as Stefano Della Santa has come up then, and Flavio Gipponi. 3 riders now racing down to Luigiani. And I'll tell you, Konishev will take some beating. It's just 3 of a minute for the sprint. The main field aren't very far off the back wheels either. They're very, very close indeed. It looks as though Adriano Baffi is going to be robbed of a possible sprint win. So too Baldato, because these 3 are still clear. Dmitry Konishev, who really has been the man to spearhead the Russian appearances at the professional level of world cycling. You may remember when Greg LeMond won the world title in Chambéry. Konishev was up there too. 2 kilometres to go. And it's Konishev who made the breakaway and seems to be left to be doing most of the work. Flavio Gipponi, who is the Mercatoni Uno rider at the back of that line. Della Santa, the Mapai team, is the other rider. And look at this, they're right on them now, and they're gambling. Konishev has got himself into second place, which is where he wants to be. Stefano Della Santa is leading up towards the lines. It's a very slight incline this, but the field are coming down very, very quickly behind them. Very, very quickly indeed, but Konishev has gone. Della Santa almost sat up but thought it's worth going again. He gets second, but Konishev gets the victory. Della Santa is second, Gipponi is third, and almost a collision there on the line. And that was the fast finishing Maurizio Fondriest, but it wasn't fast enough to beat Dmitry Konishev. The effort showing on his face, and he gets the stage victory in the Giro d'Italia. There's no doubt who the happy man is so far, though. Moreno Argentin is keeping his lead, everything working out just fine for him. Konishev winning the stage by 2 seconds. Gipponi was third, Fondriest it was fourth, Luc Leblanc fifth. Giorgio Furlan, who attacked, he finished in fifth place. Still that 26 seconds margin to Ugrimov, 35 seconds to Fondriest for Moreno Argentin. So to the sixth stage, 130 kilometres. The riders now from Villafranca Terina to Messina. We're heading now down towards the bottom end of the boot of Italy before we nip across onto the Isles of Sicily. And this is a very, very beautiful place, as is all of the places down in the far south of Italy, as we go into now the Sicilian influence of the country. And of the 180 riders who set off from Porto Azzurro at the start of the Giro, 171 are still surviving here on the stage to bring them to Messina. 3 days they're facing now on the beautiful island of Sicily. And to get between the towns, well, if you're a member of the Festina team registered in Andorra, one of the smallest principalities in Europe, then you really can travel in style. This is the biggest team this year because Andorra, being so small, have had to take on many amateur riders so they could invite the top foreign riders onto the squad because of international rulings. Their best man is the Dutchman, Steven Rooks, the first man to win the King of the Mountains title in the Tour de France for Holland. And other riders like Eric van Lanker sitting down there, who's from Belgium. And the leader of the team here, by the way, is Jos van Aert. And so the team here more or less for training for the upcoming Tour de France and have yet to distinguish themselves in this year's Giro. Maybe they're enjoying the comfort a little bit too much. 130 kilometres on the menu, the small town of Villafranca Terina, as they race across to Messina as the crow flies. They're very close together, but not the way the riders are going today. And the conditions are extremely hot in the far south here. Temperatures expected to soar over 100 degrees, and it won't be to the liking of a lot of the riders. And this is Zenon Jaskula from Poland. 4th year now as a professional, turned professional rather late because until recent years, of course, the Eastern Bloc nations weren't allowed to turn professional. Luc Leblanc out on the attacks again, 18 seconds the gap. Not surprisingly, Mercatoni Uno are trying to keep this race together. That's Leali in the front there, Bruno Leali. And it looks as though they have an interest in bringing Zenon Jaskula back into the field here. The other rider with Jaskula, I think, is Tonkov, but he's back in the field as well. As the Mercatoni Uno riders sweep by. Reputations mean nothing here. The big professional teams know what their aims are in the Giro, and their aim is to get Baffy up there for the stage wins into the last kilometre. Now let's see if they can, but this is the big figure to Guido Bontempi here, who once picked up 5 stage wins straight in the Tour of Italy in 1986, and he's going to hold it. Bontempi, despite his 33 years of age, gets it on the line, and Baffy was pipped there. Let's have a look at that again. That's Baffy coming on the shoulder there of Guido Bontempi. But Bontempi made it by half a length. And he gets the victory over Baffy. Bugno getting third, Girotto fourth, Konishev in the hunt again in 5th place this time. Overall, the first day out on the island, no changes. Argentin winning, rather leading by 26 seconds from Ugrimov, Fondriest in 3rd place. Second day on the island and the 7th stage of the race, 242 kilometres. Couple of climbs taking the riders up to just under 1,000 metres. And if you enjoy fish, well, there's no finer place to come than to Sicily. And this swordfish here is just about to lose his head. The history of this fascinating island, well, it stretches back 2,800 years, settled originally by the Greeks, but it's known plenty of rulers since then. The Normans, the Germans, the French, the Spanish, and the Neapolitans, they've all had their share, but it's a stunning place. The sunset in the Valley of the Temples probably is one of the most magical places in the world. Feel the history seeping out, and thank heavens Italy protects all of its temples, and there are plenty of them. Great reminders of the past. They've overseen many things, of course, and it's one of the most famous stopping off points for the Giro d'Italia, a race which goes back to the turn of the century and has been won largely by Italian riders. In fact, only 13 non-Italians, by the way, have won the Giro d'Italia. And Miguel Indurain trying to alter that again this time out. Won it for the first time for Spain last year. Garibaldi began his drive to unite a modern Italy here, by the way, in 1860, and Mount Etna, not too far away, is Europe's highest active volcano. Let's hope it chooses to stay quiet for the next couple of days. So the riders now facing up the ride from Capodolando to Agrigento, and Greg LeMond riding a very, very quiet tour at the moment, but he's only 34 minutes. I know it sounds a lot, but 34 minutes off the lead, but it's a lot of time to have lost on what have been so far comparatively easy stages. The sprinters fighting out the finishes, and the man in the lead is Moreno Argentin. But right now we've got two riders out in front. This is the champion of Denmark, Bjarne Riis, up here at the front, and the rider who's come along with him for more than the ride is Coppolino. The rider's on the attack earlier on, Micheli, and Perini is up here as well. Well, Perini had a marvellous Tour de France last year, and he hopes he'll get in this year. It depends on a good ride, really, in the Tour of Italy for his team, because they'll be on a wild card selection, and he'll be conscious of that. Rider grabbing a drink here, as all of the riders are, is Da Silva, once leader of the Tour de France in Luxembourg. That was the year that we had the great problem with the man who forgot to go to the start house in time, Pedro Delgado, in the time trial at Luxembourg. There's Perini rather. And it seems to be a case of just give us a drink today, because temperature's up to 105 degrees. It is dry, it is very, very hot, and a lot of the riders simply can't race at the back of the field. They're just following along in a big bunch, and this is a very active little breakaway taking advantage of it. And Coppolino is in trouble here, and they probably welcome that water, because Bjarne Riis has launched a great attack at the front. I think he's got rid of Perini. Here's the main field. 4 minutes 25 seconds. None of these riders really affecting at the moment the overall situation of the race. A very arid countryside. They're regrouped. They've answered the attack of Bjarne Riis on the Ariostia team, along with Argentin last year, but now Argentin has gone. It does seem that Bjarne Riis has been given his head a little bit more to ride his own sort of races rather than be a super domestique in helping Argentin win his races. Quite clearly anxious to keep this race away. He wants the ZG team in the Tour de France, and a wild card shot is still a possibility. Well, 300 metres out to go, and Perini's gone early. He's not a great sprinter, and this would be Coppolino's best ever result here, but the man to watch out for is surely Bjarne Riis, who can deliver a good blow, and Riis comes now, and he comes very, very smoothly. No trouble at all for the champion of Denmark. He gets the stage win very easily from Coppolino, but the man who was worried about the weather, Andy Hampsten.
Yeah, it was a sticker. We were looking at the scenery a little bit, but I tell you just can't race 3 weeks in conditions like this. It picked up quite a bit, you know, in the middle and towards the end, but it was hard.
And so the riders overall was a win for Bjarne Riis. Coppolino was second, Perini was third, but the main field coming in a minute 21 seconds back, and as a result no change at all overall amongst the top 7 men. 8th stage now, 140 kilometres, Agrigento to Palermo, the last day on the island, and 1 or 2 riders now will be glad to leave this island. The sun is simply a little bit too hot.
The heat kills you though, you know. It's every day. every day gets worse and worse, you know. Like nobody can attack in that kind of weather. Like it's like the Sicilian people themselves don't work between 10 and 4, and we're asked to race in that weather, you know.
And here's one man who's done that in the past, one of the legends of Italian cycling, Gino Bartali. 4 times the Italian champion, 3 times the winner of the Giro, 4 times second in the Giro, and twice the winner of the Tour de France. The amazing thing was he won the national title in 1935. He won it again in 1952. And along with Fausto Coppi here, they had some great battles. So there are 3 top names in Italian cycle. The other one, of course, is Ercole Baldini. And now, of course, the names we talk about, Argentine, Bugno, Chipucci and Fondriest in this year's Giro d'Italia. This is Palermo, where the riders are now heading on the stage of 140 kilometres. And when they get here, again, the temperature is up. It's just on 100 degrees. They will then say goodbye and fly away from the island of Sicily, and I don't think they'll be too sorry. The breakaway formed today by Mario Chiesa. He's gone clear. And he's built himself a lead of 30 seconds over the group, which still contains Moreno, Argentine and the rest of the men that matter in this year's Giro d'Italia. And this looks like Stefano Collier. Indeed it is. 66th overall in the race so far, as you can see by the little pink 66 there. Stefano Collier, an underrated rider who is steadily developing well in Italian cycling, always willing to have a go. Racing now through the parched countryside here of Sicily as we head off towards Palermo. It's on the northern coastline of the island, probably the best known, before the riders leapfrog away and up to Rome, where the race will recommence tomorrow. Well, Collier has been picked up, and again it is the Mercatoni Uno team of Adriano Baffi who has brought the race right down again. But they've still got to pack up Mario Chiesa. He's a rider who's been seen in the Tour du Pont, for example, in the United States. He doesn't speak any English, but he certainly enjoys racing in America. But the dream is over. Mario Chiesa has been swept up by the field, and once again the big bunch has come together, and the Mercatoni Uno team have got control at the front. They come down towards the finish now in Palermo. In fact, the MG boys have got themselves company at the front now, and this is going to be the sprint between Baldato and Baffi by the look of it, the way they're lining up for the finish here, and looking desperately to see where Baldato is. Both Baldato and Baffi have won a stage already, and this is going to be a great battle for the line now as they come up towards the finish. The sprinters are now taking control. In fact, Baffi is about 5 men down in the line at the moment. He's going to have to burst out of that. He's the rider in the mauve-coloured points jersey. And now here comes Baffi. Leone is also here, and Baldato. This is going to be a very close finish. This is Endrio Leone who's leading it out for the line now. But there comes Baffi coming up on the outside. Baldato is with him as they come right on the line. Baffi takes it. Leone held on there for second place, and Baldato had to be content with third. So the second stage win of the race for Adriano Baffi, with Leone there in second place and all of the riders given the same time. Consequently, no change overall at all. Argentine still very much the leader of the Giro d'Italia. The riders now facing up to a plain journey which will take them just to the outskirts of Rome for the resumption of the race. And for the mechanics and all of the followers, they face a 12-hour boat journey from Palermo to Naples before they will arrive on the outskirts of Rome. And it's very close to here where the riders spend their only rest day of this year's Giro d'Italia. Well, you know what they say, all roads lead to Rome. And it's no exaggeration, the Romans invented the superhighways and they still exist under the layers of modern paving today. This is the famous Fountain de Trevi, where the tourists come and throw 2 coins over the shoulder, one to return to Rome and the other to make a wish. It really is a city for the romantics, and under the old Roman Empire, all of these old buildings were once faced with marble. But like everything else these days, there are always in evidence around about the modern motor car, perhaps taking a little bit of the beauty away from the most visited site in Italy, the Colosseum, built in 80 AD, and once held 50,000 fans for the contests of the lions and the gladiators. And the route today, the riders in fact heading across the route of stage 2 as they head away from Montelibretti to Fabriano, 219 kilometres on this 9th day. It goes in a northeasterly direction. Gianni Bugno in the World Championship jersey there, but the early attacker, Francesco Cabello from the Kelma team, 24 years of age and 100th overall in the Giro d'Italia. Well, he got away 25 kilometres after the start this morning, and that's his lead at the moment, 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Well, you've always got to have the great adventurers in every stage race, and if you don't stick your nose out front, well, you'll never win a stage of any big race. Cabello now trying to build a lead in the bunch. Well, a little bit cooler the conditions, although the sun is still shining. Argentine there, happy in the Maglia Rosa, and keeping right up on the overall classification with his team. Not too far away, but you see it's Baffy's team all of the time who are setting the pace, but the one man who could spoil the party is here, Francesco Cabello. 33 kilometres to go and in the lead since the first 25 kilometres this morning, but he is slowing down. And the pace has picked up quite a lot now. And Gianni Bugno riding very close to the front today. He's been in the first 6 or 7 riders all of the time. He really does need to show his colours sooner or later because he's not having a great tour at all. And this is one of the small climbs on the stage today. The Dolomites coming nearer now day by day. And of course so too is the first really big individual time trial. And Argentine is very, very conscious of that, knowing the ability of Miguel Indurain. Once again, the stunning countryside here now as we head up towards the northeast corner of Italy. And the pack still together, but it's all over. It's been a long, long breakaway. We're about 13 kilometres from the finish, and that would make the breakaway there of Cabello 181 kilometres in the lead. Chiesa now going clear again. Well, 6 kilometres, 5.8 to be precise, and in fact Mario Chiesa, who has attacked and attacked and attacked with absolutely no reward, nothing to show for it, he's gone again. It looks as though we've got 2 Austria riders going here. One is Giorgio Furlan, and I think the little rider there was David Cassani, who is a good climber. There's Chiesa, 97th overall, 27 years of age. And Giorgio Furlan chasing him down, a much higher prospect in the overall situation. Giorgio Furlan here won the Flèche Wallonne and the Tour of Switzerland last year. Finished 19th overall in the Giro, and also won himself a stage. And he's yet to do that. He's tried once and failed. He's come up alongside Mario Chiesa now. So we've got 2 riders together. And the gap not very much at all, although the kilometres to go are closing down all of the time. But once again, the whole field here looking likely now to contest the finish. Chiesa and Giorgio Furlan, well, they're absolutely at the full effort here. A little look across there from Chiesa just to see what Giorgio Furlan was looking like, but it looks as though Chiesa's still got plenty left in him, but the field are closing down very, very quickly now as we come up towards the line. There's nothing in it here. The other rider who's gone on to the back there is Enrico Zaina from the Mercatoni Uno team. That's rather blunted the attack for the sprinter Baffy. He's on the same team, but Zaina's tailed off, and Giorgio Furlan is going. I don't think Chiesa will handle him. Well, he's tried and tried, Mario Chiesa, and it looks like he's going to be pipped, but second place is better than most results he's been getting. He's lost it in second place. Giorgio Furlan gets what is really his annual stage win here in the Giro d'Italia, and Zaina takes third place. So Giorgio Furlan, Austria, former teammate of the race leader, Marino Argentine, he gets the stage win ahead of Chiesa. Zaina Manzoni, who's riding very well on the flat stages here, he's 4th, and Baldato is 5th. Argentino keeps his 26 seconds over Ugrimov, Fondriest 3rd, Bugno 4th, Indurain 5th, and so the riders now coming to the 10th stage, the 28 kilometres time trial, and those seconds now should open up. It's only a question of which way will it be. Well, this is the place where the holidaymakers flood with its beautiful beaches here. And plenty of water sports. There'll be plenty of sport out on the open road today as the riders ride the race of truth. Well, Miguel Indurain plotted his course to victory in the Giro d'Italia last year when he became the first Spanish winner by winning the time trials. He'll be very conscious of the fact that he was beaten, in fact, by Fondriest in the first one. This is Francesco Moser, the world hour record holder. Moser 51.151. And Francesco Moser, well, like Fausto Coppi and Baldini, Felice Gimondi is one of the cycling greats. He still holds the world hour record, by the way. And he's also a previous winner of the Giro d'Italia. And that was in 1984. This is when he set the world hour record, though, on the 23rd of January 1984, when Moser did 51.151 kilometres. Well, that hour record will be under attack this year during the Tour de France by two British riders, while we now go back to the time trial here at Senigallia. Andy Hampsten, one of the early starters, and the time to beat, well, it's slipping away. At the time he comes in, he's 9th best time. Armand de las Cuevas, who rides on the Benesto team of Indurain, a very underrated rider and a very, very good time trialist. He got closest to Indurain last year in the time trial, a big time trial that opened the time trial section of the Tour de France, when he lost only 3 minutes to Indurain, but he finished second. De las Cuevas now should go top of the leaderboard if he's riding on form. Out on the course, the time checks are indicating he's the quickest. Stephen Roche, the winner of the Tour in 1987. Last couple of deep breaths and away. Roche is still enjoying a very good Tour of Italy and still has the possibility of a high finish if he comes to the Dolomites well. And here's De las Cuevas coming up. There's the time to beat, and he's well inside Jascula's time as he comes in. 36.08, a 35-second beating. He's top of the leaderboard. Claudio Chiappucci, 10th overall at the moment. Knows that defending his handicap is the time trial, but you can see the crowd will help him if they can. Claudio Chiappucci must produce a good time trial to stay in the hunt here. This is Roche coming home, but he's slipping away. But it's not a bad time for Stephen, top 10 at the moment. Out on the course with Chiappucci, and now his time is good, very, very good indeed. Chiappucci has pulled off a very special ride here. He stayed very close to De las Cuevas. Out on the course, 3rd best time at the minute. And now the start of the man that everybody fears, Miguel Indurain. They all say it's not a question of will he win, it's always a question of by how much will he win. Now the time check out on the circuit, 22.19, and he's well clear. 21.45 for Miguel Indurain. Now Chiappucci coming up to the finish. It's been a good ride by Claudio Chiappucci. Jascula is still in 3rd place, and that's the challenge from Claudio Chiappucci. Jascula is a very, very good time trialist, indicating a good ride here by Claudio Chiappucci. He'll get 3rd best so far, 36 minutes 30.5. And when he recovers, I think he'll be very, very pleased with that performance. It will keep him in the hunt in the Giro d'Italia this year. Gianni Bugno, 4th overall. And even on this slight climb here, he doesn't look as though he's riding as smoothly as he can. Look at the contrast here now as Indurain starts to pick off the riders who started in front of him. And Miguel Indurain is never more in his element than when he's riding at these sort of speeds on the flat roads. He's passing Massimilio Lelli there of the Ariostia team. And down on the seaside, it looks as though Indurain really is in full cry. Now, is he registering here the foundation of his 2nd Giro d'Italia? As Indurain comes up to the finish, De las Cuevas, his teammate, is the man who still holds the leading position. But look at the time of Miguel Indurain. He is going to annihilate De las Cuevas' time, that's for sure. So Miguel Indurain has come back to form. He's ridden the way he always rides the big tours, stays hidden in the bunch until he strikes in the time trial. And here at Senigallia, he's doing just that. It'll be best time when he arrives. 35.16.1, a massive 52 seconds improvement over De las Cuevas. Well, here's Maurizio Fondriest. He pulled the surprise right out at the start at Portoferraio when he won the time trial, but it's not indicating on the time boards there he's going to do it now as the time trials get that little bit longer. And neither for Gianni Bugno. He's gone outside of Stephen Roche's time now. Roche in 12th place, and that's gone. And now he's moving down the lines. He hits the line now. 14th best for Gianni Bugno, and I think you know his Tour of Italy has ended just there. Now the pink jersey has the Maglia Rosa work wonders on the shoulders here of Moreno Argentine. He's riding high. He's never been a great time trial rider. He's been more a roadman sprinter. He's up in 6th place at the time check there. This is Fondriest. And Maurizio Fondriest now heading down towards the finish, and I don't think we're going to see the surprise. In fact, the longer distance hasn't suited Maurizio. De las Cuevas is the time he's aiming for, but that's going to go by the board about now. Gelfi is the next rider in 3rd place as Fondriest arrives to claim 3rd place. 57 seconds though slower than Miguel Indurain. The pink jersey out on the course. Fighting now to hold on to this jersey, but I can't see it. Fondriest, and the times are counting down as Argentine comes to the line. He's lost the lead, 36.16, the 4th best time even so for Argentine. That'll keep him high up in the overall, but it won't be in pink anymore. He's conceded a round minute to the new leader of the Giro d'Italia, Indurain. Argentine finishes 4th. Gelfi comes in there with a surprise 5th place, but again Miguel Indurain has claimed the lead after a time trial. Toriani there, the organiser of the race, applauding this wonderful man Miguel Indurain, now the leader of the Giro by 22 seconds from Argentine, who really rode well to hold that place. Ugrimov has dropped down into 3rd slot. So the riders now facing up to their 11th stage, 184 kilometres. You can't get it much flatter than this, can you? And the riders will be very pleased about that. But the weather has changed indeed. Just look at this. Totally miserable conditions, and now would they like to be back on the island of Sicily with temperatures at 105 degrees. The riders are now in very, very miserable conditions indeed. It's the lot of a tour rider. I'm afraid you keep on going, whatever the weather will do to you. A small group always willing to attack has got 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And Fontanelli is one of the riders in this leading group. Over 4¼ hours in this terrible conditions here. And that's Fontanelli with Tibaldi on the far side, and Bottaro nearest the camera. The 3 riders who've got the lead here. None of them are going to affect the overall lead though at the moment. As they come up towards the finish here now, it's going to be a thoroughly miserable stage for them. And Fontanelli is the rider who's making the plunge for home, and the Navigar rider. And Tibaldi is on the far right of our picture. Now he's switched over. Well, he's still on the right. As the sprint comes now from Fontanelli and Bottaro. Fontanelli is the rider who's going for it and looks as though he's going to get it. It's been terrifically heavy rain all day, but Fontanelli will still be a very, very happy man. His stage win in the Tour of Italy after 4 hours and 17 minutes in the saddle. But this is a stage with the bunch coming in just about 6 seconds behind. The pink jersey now of Miguel Indurain. That's a fitting name right now too, isn't it? And Indurain really not too keen, but 3 minutes and 29 seconds down, and there could well be a new pink jersey because Bruno Leali was in between that group. And in fact, Fontanelli gets the stage, and Bottari, Tibaldi and Manzoni again getting another 4th place. But there's a new leader tonight, and it really is a surprise. Bruno Leali gets the greatest moment of his career as he pulls on the pink jersey. He was in the chase group. He's got the lead by just 6 seconds ahead of Indurain, and Indurain has conceded the lead that nobody really expected him to do that. Indeed not, and 6 seconds isn't a lot now. 236 kilometres, this 12th stage from Doza, taking the riders to Asiago with just one climb coming towards the end at Fontanella. And like all of the towns, they always celebrate the passage of the Giro d'Italia. And there are many great veteran cyclists here who just love riding the bike. It's a fabulous country to go cycling in, and there's no guesses for which window that team is supported. Happy days for Bruno Leali this morning. Maurizio Fondriest having to put up with the thought that a rival Italian has won the pink jersey away from Miguel Indurain. One man would like to do just that, no doubt, was Gianni Bugno. So the field facing a long stage today, with the only real threat coming at the end. A second category climb which will lift the riders up to the finishing line. It could be a chance for somebody like Indurain to get his 6 seconds back and reclaim it, and that could be why Armand de las Cuevas has started the attacks today to try and draw the string out of Leali's team and make them work to chase him down. This is Franco Coccioli former winner of the Giro d'Italia, and Claudio Chiappucci. So the riders now beginning to relish the thought of approaching the Dolomites. Still a couple of days away. Indurain is sitting there in number 2 order. And there is Bruno Leali. It's amazing, isn't it? But once you pull on a race leader's jersey, what a better race you ride. He's now riding at the front. He's watching the moves. He's going to hang on to that lead for as long as possible. 18 seconds is the gap to this small leading group, with Coccioli up here. De Las Cuevas is now tagged onto the back there, in fact, of Claudio Chiappucci. This is a good breakaway. There's little Claudio, who's had his great moments spoiled by Miguel Indurain in previous tours of Italy. And De Las Cuevas now reverting to the role of policeman there, because Chiappucci is far too dangerous to work with, and Coccioli's gone back into the field. And we've got the Mercatoni Uno riders. I think it's Baldato there. Now Bordelani, sorry, Fabio Bordelani, who has brought the riders up to Coccioli. Well, De Las Cuevas will... He certainly speaks Spanish. I'm not too sure whether he speaks Italian, because he's normally in the command of this rider here, Miguel Indurain, who's having to do a lot of work as well now. And that's a strange sight to see Indurain pacing the leader of the Tour. It normally would be the other way around. As the riders continue their climb up, it looks as though Chiappucci may have made a great move here. De Las Cuevas is hanging on, but doing nothing at all to assist the attack. About 15 kilometres to go to the finish, and we're on this climb now, which will take them up to 745 metres at Fontanella. Marvellous crowd, the north of Italy here, the fans loving their sport immensely. And there's nothing better for them than, of course, to see their man Claudio Chiappucci setting the pace, and now the chase down coming here from Leali's team. Stephen Roach coming up, and in fact Stephen Roach has got things to say here to the riders here of Leali, and I would think it would be something like, why are you chasing? Because Indurain is the man who should do the chasing. And because and in fact Roach almost fell there was a clash of wheels, and that's Indurain just fending Roach off. But I think, you know, Roach has a point, because Miguel Indurain is the rider who should really pick up the pace, although the unwritten rule might be that the leader of the Tour should do the chasing. And Chiappucci now finding that De Las Cuevas also will not work, and I think they can see the field coming up here, and it's all over. Well, that's a shame, but that was a dangerous attack, and it's good to see that they are willing still to attack the leaders of this Tour, and especially Miguel Indurain. But it's all over, and now the counter-attacks are coming. They're just over the top of this little climb, but it continues to be hard all the way to the finish. Now there's a number of attacks going off the front. Well, it's a good chance now. Leali has pulled this race back together with the help of the Benesto riders, but he had to finish it off himself. Konishev is going clear here at the front. He's already got one stage win. He might be inspired by the fact he once won the Amateur Tour of Italy back in 1988, before he turned professional the following year and took the silver medal in the World Championships behind Greg LeMond. Bugno here too, watching all of the time, riding quite a solid race, but seemingly unable to get away from the field. Well, I think Konishev has got clear of this field. There's plenty of riders trying to catch him up. But there's a split in the main field here. No, in fact, Konishev is at the front of what is a split of about 20 riders. And this is Fondries now and Coccioli, and in fact that is Konishev trying to get on to the two leaders, but this is a good sprint from Maurizio Fondries here now as he sees the finish. He hasn't won since the time trial on day one, but he's got the lead round the corner. So too has Coccioli gone with him. Coccioli's gone wide and sat up as Konishev takes it right on the line. Dmitry Konishev pulls the win out right on the line there, and that is a great win for him. Win number 2 for Dmitry Konishev. And it'll do nothing to alter the overall, though. Bruno Leali tonight will keep his pink jersey for another day, and at times that didn't look possible. Stephen Roach here has also ridden well as he stays in the front group. Things going according to plan so far for him, I think.
We'll wind it back and get it for you. Stephen. Stephen, that was a lot harder stage than everybody expected to. What do you think of Chiappucci on the climb there?
I had an excellent go, you know, but unfortunately, like, they call Chiappucci the devil. The devil has no friends, only bad friends. And unfortunately, like the team of Leali who were defending the jersey, they rode like devils behind him, you know. So it was very unfortunate for Chiappucci because today Indurain wasn't on a great day today, and he could have gained like an easy minute on him today, you know, easily.
Well, really, to try and get rid of him, all the teams have got to try and attack him in the mountains. And today, the Mercatoni team played into his hands.
In Italy, there's two races. There's a race for the first place and a race for the first Italian. So that's the Bruno Leali and the Mercatoni Uno. They're riding in the second race.
What about a race for the first Irishman?
That's one already, yeah.
You rode very well today for the first time in the mountains. How do you feel for the next few days that are going to come up?
Well, you know, not too confident really. You know, I hope to be there, but for how long I don't know. Like, you know, it's always the same problems when I hit the mountains or in time trials. Like I said, my back problem. I get through one day and two, you know. So hopefully the day that is hard, I will get through it.
Well, like you said today, Miguel Indurain looked as if he was in trouble. Do you think other riders will have seen that and they'll go for the big attacks?
Definitely, but who will attack? Like Bunyan didn't seem the best today either, you know, and Bunyan has to attack. So like if Chiappucci attacks on his own, it's not going to help anybody. If Bunyan was attack, Amston was attack, like the other guys must attack, you know.
Chance missed perhaps then for the riders to steal a march over Miguel Indurain, but Dmitry Konishev delighted with his second win. And a second day in pink too for Bruno Leali. And he really couldn't have suspected this would happen to him in this year's Giro. Still got his 6 seconds lead over Indurain, 15 seconds over Fondriest. But the high roads are now with us and 2 mountain climbs today, and here's Paul Sherwin to tell us more.
Well, the first days in the mountains of a major tour is always very strange because the riders have had 10 days on the flat. They've been using big gears and they have to look for their mountain legs. One man who had his mountain legs very quickly yesterday was Claudio Chiappucci, but the gradient wasn't as steep as it's going to be over the next 2 days. The next 2 days are going to be very, very hard climbs, and that's when the real climbers will come to the front. It's not necessarily the weekend when the Giro d'Italia is going to be won, but for some riders it's definitely going to be lost. And riders like Chiappucci, Bugno and Fondriest are going to have to try and attack Miguel Indurain and put him into difficulty. Many people thought he was suffering on the climbs yesterday, and if he was, this is the weekend when they have to try and dethrone him.
And that, Paul, is absolutely right. 2 climbs on the 217 kilometre stage, and this is the little breakaway which has formed 1 minute and 7 seconds clear. And riding right near the front of this group now is Peter Ugrimov. A very good move by him, and should cause concern to Miguel Indurain, and Bruno Leali still in the pink, quite literally. And this is a very, very strong chasing group now. It's the advance party because the peloton has split. Luc Leblanc of France coming back into the picture now the roads are growing up. And Hamston, Lely and Ugrimov are the 3 riders gone there. Good move this by Andy Hamston, getting his confidence back a little bit. He's always enjoyed his tours of Italy. First American to win the race in 1988, when he also won 2 stages. And he was 3rd in 89 and 5th last year, and riding well on these early climbs, over the top first. Now it's up to Ugrimov and Lely to try and keep the pace as we head on now to the Passi Ores. And the gap is 1 minute and 12 seconds. This is Coccioli now trying to get across to the group. He's had a bit of a problem on that climb, and Coccioli now trying to rejoin that big group which is trying to form behind these 3 leaders as we go down. The pink jersey has dropped, by the way. He's lost 1 minute and 12 seconds. That's the latest. And not surprising too. So it's Indurain who is now the leader on the road. But Coccioli has rejoined and he's getting back into the chase group which contains Miguel Indurain. Time for a drink here. Former winner of the Giro d'Italia and lying 9th overall this year. Well, what goes up comes down, you know, and it's another skill indeed to be able to descend at ending up to 80 kilometres an hour, 50 miles an hour on these roads in Italy. They're in many cases much more difficult than the roads in France for the Tour de France. They're narrower, they twist a lot. and you've really got to stay alert. Minute 12 seconds, still the breakaway. For many people who come to Italy, they feel that the Dolomites are the most beautiful mountain range here in Europe. They're not perhaps as high as the Alps, but they're certainly steep and tortuous. It looks as though Liali's group now is dropping away from it. We're now on the climb here of the Passo dell'Erbe, and Hamston, Ugrimov and Massimiliano Lelli is the rider from Ariostoia. And again, this is a superb move here, especially by Peter Ugrimov. Remember that he was the rider that won stage 3 in Toscano and moved up to 2nd place overall. And Indurain would do well to keep an eye on him, because again, it's an opportunist move to try and cause a reaction from Benesto. And this is the group here, which contains the Mercatoni Uno team, and with it the pink jersey, and still on the wheel of Miguel Indurain. Well, he looks good. Pucci is there, and there is Argentin, and we're very pleased with the fact that his teammate out on the front, Luc Leblanc. It's still quite a sizable chase group. And coming up towards the top of the Passo dell'Erbe, 31 kilometers remaining. Well, they won't know too much about Peter Ugrimov, although he does a lot of racing here in Italy. He's not Italian, of course. He's doing the ride of his life, but they all know Andy Hamston. Coming up towards the top of the climb, and Hamston again in the lead, 2,004 meters, and the best crowd so far, I think. The gap is a little more than 1 minute back to the Indurain pink jersey group, and it looks as though they're content to let Andy Hamston do all of the pacemaking. Peter Ugrimov in 2nd place as they come through the crowds. Hamston feels his chance is good now to reclaim a little bit of time he's lost over the last couple of weeks. 1 minute 35 seconds is the latest time check as they come up towards the summit. And Andy has really made all of the pacemaking up here. And Lelli is in 3rd place, where he's been for much of the climb. Now the long drop down. The hills aren't over yet. Gianni Bugno. And still the pink jersey is hanging onto the wheel there of Miguel Indurain. He's not giving him an inch. This has been a good climb for him, and it is amazing, but when you pull on a race leader's jersey like this, you become a second rider. Superb riding by Liali. And his team also have risen to the occasion too. They've really kept this chase group together. They've set all of the pace, but of course they are doing all of the pacemaking and giving Miguel Indurain an easy ride. It doesn't look like an easy ride, but you can see the face of those Gerard Rouet just ahead of Indurain. He's the faithful lieutenant. And again, Liali dodging round riders to keep stuck onto that back wheel there of Miguel. And there's the clock. It's come back a little bit. 1:35 over the top is the gap. So it's nothing yet, but Ugrimov is the man in pink. He's up the road. And I must say that the Mejia team of Moreno Argentin have had a great tour so far. It all began so well for them when Argentin won that opening stage. Then Ugrimov moved himself right up into 2nd place at the end of stage 3. Now a very, very difficult descent, this one. The way down. And quite clearly Ugrimov is not a good descender. And in fact I think it is Massimiliano Lelli who is doing the pacemaking down the front with Andy in the middle. Brakes full on here for yet another hairpin bend. Thankfully the roads are dry. And Ugrimov is fighting here to keep them in sight, so they're going down so well. This is the chase group, and the gap is beginning to close. That's Rouet for Benesto leading the charge down. The gap is down to 1 minute and 15 seconds. Las Cuevas having a very good Giro as well. And there's a problem. Maurizio Fondriest, 3rd overall, or at least he was, 15 seconds off the pace, and he's got a problem, a rear wheel puncture. And that was in the group containing Indurain, where he's come from. But he's still got a problem here. Either the brakes are rubbing, I think it's the brakes. And he's off again. Well, he's losing time, and this is rather unfortunate for Maurizio. And the team car appears to have gone on. But he's off again. Now he's got to get back into his rhythm. There's still a reasonable distance to go. Somewhere about 25 kilometres to go for the finish. Well, this has been the day of Andy Hampsten. He's been left to do most of the heavy work in this leading group. And Ugrimov is back after the descent, and it looks as though Fondriest is also beginning to step up the pace a little bit, but there's still a long empty road ahead of him. There's no sign of the Indurain group. Well, I suppose we should really call it the Liali group, shouldn't we? He's the leader at the moment. Oh dear me, well, the motorbike getting a little bit in the way then. That's a shame for Fondriest, because he's now can get into the tail of the group here if he's lucky. He's starting to see the riders he left. We've gone back up to the leaders now. Ugrimov now prepared to do the chase because the kilometres are coming down. Just inside 13 to go, and Ugrimov really must sense now he could be pulling off the coup of the day and become the new leader here. But the gap is coming down. It's holding 1:16. Miguel Indurain, for once, looking a little bit as though he really is under pressure. And Liali sitting there watching, having a great day out. He could well defend that pink jersey if he can keep this up and rely heavily on Indurain to close the gap down. .52 seconds. So, to be anticipated, I suppose, but it is coming down. Now, can they salvage just enough for Ugrimov to get the race lead? Lely. And this is Liali. Now he's got to the front. He's feeling confidence is growing with him now, because this was the day the axe should have fallen, and he's saying, no, it's not. He's starting to come back into this race very, very much now. He's taken over the pacemaking. Indurain back into third place. And Miguel must be impressed by this rider, who's possibly the oldest rider in the race, Bruno Liali. His great day came in '87 when he was the Italian champion. And Ugrimov has given a lot away here. He was 22 seconds off yellow, still is in, off pink rather, he still is in the pink jersey if he can hold it. Lely is also there. Hampsten has had a great day out. This was the old Andy Hampsten, the man who won the Giro d'Italia back in 1988. Bugno's gone now from the group. Now surely they can't let Bugno go. He'll cause a reaction which might end this breakaway. So Bugno has snapped the elastic, and there's a reorganisation here. Banesto, little bit of panic. The Banesto team led by Rouet, the French member. And look at this. Gianni Bugno, 18 seconds back to the chase group. They're all closing in, but Bugno's reached them first. And Bugno is not even going to give them a chance to get their breath because he's going straight by. Hampsten latched on. Gianni Bugno, well, he looks at last like the man who won the world title for the last 2 years. He's growing in confidence as well as this race goes into the mountains. And this would be a marvellous result for him. It would give him back all of his old courage if he could just pull off the stage win now. But the field are closing in very, very fast indeed as we approach the finish. Andy Hampsten up here at the front. The four are just about hanging on. Ugrimov over to the right of our picture, but Indurain is bringing them up, and bringing them up very, very quickly indeed. De Las Cuevas is up there too. The Banestos have had to work hard for this one, but amazingly it's coming back together almost on the line. 6¼ hours in the saddle, and Bugno is waiting for somebody to open up the sprint, and Bugno won't do it. As Bugno tries now to coax somebody into the lead, Indurain himself is coming on the far right, and he's got Argentine tucked in nicely. Liali is there too. Who would have believed that? But Argentine now surely is the man to watch. He's in second place as they start for the line now. Argentine is going. Moreno Argentine is going, and this is going to be a wonderful stage win for Moreno. Having seen Ugrimov caught, he cleaned up for the Mechia team, almost the reverse of what happened on stage 3. And now it is a victory, the second one of the Giro for Moreno Argentine. And that's a reminder he's still very much in this race overall.
That was an incredible stage today. You tried exactly what you wanted to do to try and get a little bit of time before we got to the bottom of the climb, and then...
Yeah, it worked out better than I thought. My Motorola teammates were in a break. There's all these little breaks going, but usually it just stays together, but we got in a nice group of 15 or 20, and I had two teammates. They did a lot of work, so we had a good lead on the climb. And the other group came up to us, but I knew that they'd be pretty tired. And in the book, it said it was going to be 14%, and it was never more than 8 or 9. But you know, I attacked after, oh God, I don't know, 5 or 6 kilometers on the uphill with Ugrimov and Lely, but Lely wasn't working. So the two of us were doing all the work. You know, and it was still a good situation. We were picking up some time, but I guess it never really broke up behind us.
It was difficult, I think, having Ugrimov with you because he was only 5th in the overall standings this morning, so they had to chase behind, and the team of Mercatoni did an incredible job to chase you down.
Yeah, they're very strong. And, you know, the race worked out their way, but, you know, it's good for me to go out there and do my race. I have to recover for tomorrow. It's even a better opportunity for me tomorrow, because today was really only one long climb and a couple of short ones. But tomorrow will be a real bit of work.
Well, these are happy days in the twilight years for 35-year-old Bruno Leali, pulling on a pink jersey on the day he was supposed to have lost it here in the Dolomites. Moreno Argentine winning the stage by Lely, and Lely not working, as Andy Hampson told us, profiting there by taking second place on the stage, Bunyo getting third. Overall, Leali 6 seconds ahead of Indurain, Argentine having a magnificent tour, up in third place, Fondriest is fourth. But it's showdown time now in the Dolomites, the longest stage in the highest mountains, 250 kilometres. And surely now something will be decided. And Bruno Leali, well, I wonder what sort of night's sleep he had, thinking of that pink jersey on the end of his bedpost. 4 first category climbs during the stage, 1 second category climb, and over the last half of the stage it's all uphill. One man who won't be afraid of that is the King of the Mountains leader, Claudio Chiappucci. Gianni Bunyo still very much remains a challenger in the Tour of Italy this year. And Franco Coccioli, memories of his 1991 victory. And then the rider who succeeded him, Miguel Indurain. But the mountains, you know, are not the friends of everyone. Here's Paul Sherwin with Stephen Roach.
Well, Steve, yesterday was the first day in the mountains, and you were a little bit suspect. You didn't know exactly how you were going to react, but you were still there at the end.
Yeah, well, now I'm sure how I'm going to react. Yesterday was a fairly hard day in the mountains. You can see it in the end, but today is a very, very hard day in the mountains. No, it's even too long for this kind of a race, I think, you know, but that's the way it goes. We're here now, we got to carry on, you know. It'll depend, I think, on how they go over the first hill, and then also the Marmolada, which is very, very hard.
What do you think is going to happen? Because so far, Indurain's team hasn't really been put under pressure, because the Italians have all been fighting to try and get the pink jersey or to keep hold of it, like Bruno Leali's team.
It's very strange, like, but when you look at the general classification for the moment, the first 20 riders are on in about 2 minutes, so, and if those riders can go away, and if one of those riders go away, who's going to ride behind? Like, today a team is not really good to you unless you have a couple of strong guys. But like yesterday, the Mercatoni Uno surprised everybody, so maybe today they will surprise us.
What about your teammate Claudio Chiappucci? There's a big crowd here today, and he's a showman.
Yeah, well, like yesterday, even with the crowd yesterday, he couldn't perform. He wasn't on a good day, but it was better having a bad day yesterday than having it today. So I think today he'll be, hopefully anyway, he'll be able to do something. But if he goes well, it'll hurt everybody, you know. That's a problem.
Well, Claudio Chiappucci, of course, did that wonderful breakaway last year to nearby Sestriere, also in Italy in the Tour de France, which put him amongst the annals of the great mountain climbers of the Tour de France. This is a tough one today, though, and Bruno Leali must be a worried man as he pedals away with his Mercatoni Uno team all around him. And this is Franco Vona here, Eduardo Chozas. These are the early attacks. 123 kilometres now, approximately halfway into the stage. Hampston is here again, so his leg's not hurting too much after yesterday's ride. Number 46 there is Laurent Madouas, who's turning out to be a good new rider on the French Castorama team. And this is Pulnikov at the front now, alongside his teammate Chiappucci, Hampston knowing the wheels to follow. Well, these are the lower slopes, the first time up the Pordoi Pass. They've got to come up it once more yet, and it's still a long way to go. Eduardo Chozas following the wheel of Vona. now Chiappucci here is setting the pace. Pulnikov is the rider alongside him, and it looks as though Vona has got rid, in fact, of Chozas. And a massive crowd here, without doubt the finest point of the day to come and watch the race, because they come up it twice. Franco Vona, so often a champion of the Alps in the Tour de France, in his own way, is now having to try and stay away from the chase group here. Zenon Jaskula is in this group, so too Pavel Tonkov in the white jersey, Miguel Indurain, there's Luc Leblanc, Moreno Argentin, Fondriest, there's some good names in that leading group. And the man with 91 kilometers to go, facing this corridor of noise on the climb here, the Pordoi Pass. First time, a magnificent crowd. And a very orderly one indeed too for the Italian Tifosi. And coming up towards the top, Franco Vona's going to have no trouble at all in being the first rider over the top of the climb. And that must be a good feeling. Time to start the descent, just taking a final drink on board before he goes down. This is the others on the way up. Chozas is in between, don't forget. He'll go over in second place. And this is the battle here with Andy Hamster moving up for King of the Mountain points and Chiappucci quickly taking him. Pulnikov dropping back a little bit. It looks to be around 35 seconds as they come up towards the summit. Andy Hamston goes over the top. He'll be in third place from Chiappucci. 38 seconds it is. Chiappucci just checks over his shoulder, as he so often does, to see what's happening, and I think he said something there to Andy Hamston, maybe to let the group come back together. And this is the group containing Liali, and look at the gap, almost 2 minutes down, so he's in a little bit of trouble now, Bruno Liali, but he's experienced enough. It's a long way still to go. He knows they've got some hard climbs to come. It might be early days to start panicking. Liali starting the descent, and in this group too there is Gianni Bugno, so he's almost 2 minutes off the pace as well. Make the way down towards the bottom and the town of Alaba, and still it looks like Vona's still got the lead on his own. He's pulled the cap on now to keep his head warm on the way down. Chozas is still chasing him. Well, this really is a tough circuit. And now Claudio Chiappucci in a reforming bunch here. Had a chat there with Stephen Roach, and it looks as though they're starting to move around all of the Carrera riders. It might be they're trying to organise something. Indurain is in this group, and in fact there has been a couple of riders bridge the gap on the descent there, because there's a small group forming at the front. This is Dmitry Konishev here. Eduardo Chozas is here. Fondriest has come up. Now there's an interesting move, and there's a full list of the group. The other man is Roberto Conti, joining the first attackers, Vona and Chozas. 22 there is Chozas, and in fact this is Gianni Bugno who's trying to bridge the gap. Well, Bugno has come across a gap of some 2 minutes to join the group containing Indurain and co, and he's gone clear of them at the start here of the Marmolada climb. It's the first time we've really seen Bugno take the bull by the horns and have a go. This is the group he's left. There is Chiappucci. Pavel Tonkov is here. Hamston. And they don't look too worried as they start the long climb of the Marmolada. It's a real hard climb. There's Stephen Roach there explaining something of the climb. Zenon Jaskula is here, and the pink jersey has got back as well. That's a superb ride. Looks a little bit the worse for wear for it, but nonetheless. And it looks as though Bugno is coming back as well. He's been picked up here by Chiappucci, number 31, and Miguel Indurain. Pavel Tonkov, the Russian rider, former junior world champion. Best young rider in this race 1 year ago, and in the white jersey again, and they've gone right past Bugno. Nobody even looked at him because they're still the leaders up front. Bugno never made contact with them, and in fact he's losing contact with this forward group. So Bugno is losing contact. The man who once reached his world #1 ranking because of his formidable riding in the Giro d'Italia is now seeing the race ride away from him. That really is a sad sight. He made his effort today, and it hasn't paid off. He's blown. And the Marmolada is a tough little climb, as we see Conti, Ugrimov, Pulnikov and Lely here. And this is the group that's forming at the front. Vona appears to have dropped back, and And Pavel Tonkov hanging on to two very good pairs of wheels in the shape of Indurain and Kiepucci. But the whole field has splintered on this climb of the Marmolada. It's turning out to be the decisive climb of the day, I think. Liali has also been shattered out of this group. And we're now looking at the new leading group here. Lely is up here, so too is Conti. Tonkov has come up, Kiepucci, Indurain, a very select little group indeed. They've picked them all up on the climb. And now we climb up towards the wet conditions on the top of the Marmolada. The Basque flags are waving, they're waving for Miguel Indurain. And Indurain is now in his element. This I find a surprise, because here's a man who loves the sun, and he's now taking over the Tour of Italy on a very, very wet day indeed. Concentration on Miguel as he comes up towards the summit. And he's not interested in any help from anybody. 47 kilometers to go when they get to the top of this climb, and Miguel Indurain is now where he wants to be, at the front. And coming up here with him, you've got Kiepucci and Massimiliano Lely. And they've still got to go back up the Pordoi Pass yet. Very difficult descent indeed. Maurizio Fondriest is also chasing behind now, having dropped a little bit. 51 seconds he's gone over the top with Andy Hampston. And Liali has gone over 3 minutes and 25 seconds back, but this is Ugrimov on the chase now, and Ugrimov trying to get back on terms now with Indurain. You can forget about Bruno Liali, almost 4 minutes behind. And there is the difference now, 1 minute and 8 seconds between the leaders and the next group on the road. Rider number 53 here is Roberto Conti. Very good climb indeed, as he's proving today. And now the rider setting the pace, Miguel Indurain. There's the full composition of this leading group. Pulnikov, Lely, Indurain, Kiepucci, Tonkov, Ugrimov, who's just joined, having bridged that 15 seconds gap. And he's turning out to be quite a sensation, isn't he? This is the second group, led by Maurizio Fondriest. Andy Hampton is also here. Nelson Rodriguez on the Mobili team is the rider in second place. Well, Fondriest is not out of this yet. Still very much in with a chance. And these are the leaders. Lely at the front, with white jersey at the back of Pavel Tonkov. Kiepucci and Fondriest now, and in fact the Motorola team car here, Henny Kuiper shouting on to Andy Hampson to try and close this gap. It's crucial. 6.5 hours the riders have now been in the saddle, and the weather has closed in dramatically. And these are the riders who are now shaping the Giro d'Italia. They've shadowboxed for nearly 2 weeks, and now it looks like showdown time. Number 55 is Lely, who's had a great day out. And the weather has been atrocious. Pulnikov is also a little bit of a surprise in this leading group now, but he knows Ugrimov very well indeed. They used to race together when they were Russian amateurs. And Fondriest, it seems, is the rider doing all the work, and I'm not too sure whether, in fact, Andy Hampston is a little bit tired. 32 seconds the gap, so they're coming back slowly. This race isn't over yet for these boys in the chase. This has been a very, very difficult last 2 hours for the riders. Cat and mouse tactics, but Indurain has watched and waited and made his attack. Bridging the gap to the leaders on the Marmolada climb. He's now into his tempo and enjoying the rather inclement weather. Kiepucci, who's scoring well in the King of the Mountains competition today, is content to follow there in second place. Well, he's in third place at the moment. Ellie is up here. And it seems certain now that the winner of this year's Giro d'Italia is going to come from one of this group, with the odds-on favourite being last year's winner, Miguel Indurain. And the influx of the former Soviet riders, Pavel Tonkov and Ugrimov and Pulnikov, as they come up now, 3 kilometres to the summit here. And nobody helping Indurain. As no sign either of Indurain cracking. Ugrimov sitting at the back and climbing to what will be a second place overall tonight for sure. And a solid one at that. And the crowd have enjoyed the day until now, till these rains came down. Now it's made this race very difficult indeed, not just for the riders I might add, but also for the television camera crews to keep this race going. Well, I often wonder if the riders ever hear the shouts, which are almost down their ears, when they're suffering like they surely are on the climb here. As they keep the climb going. The Italians trying so desperately now to keep the race in their camp, but it's going away from them. It looks like Spain, for only the second time in Tour history, are going to have a leader tonight in Miguel Indurain again. Some 20 kilometres to go now as we come over the top of the Pordoi Pass for the final time. And Indurain at this time is in control. Clock starts there. We still have a short climb to come before, about 8 kilometres from the finish. This is a really vicious day. Here's the Fondriest group coming up, and it looks like they're going to be the best part of the minute behind. That's a lot of bridging to be done. Fondriest has done most of the pacemaking on the climb. And just now I don't see Andy Hampsten in this lead group, or chase group. I think Hampsten may have taken a packet on the climb of the Pordoi second time up. Fondriest comes up towards the summit. We've got 6 leaders have gone through. And it's 63 seconds now to the Fondriest group, led here by Maurizio Fondriest. Nelson Rodriguez, I think, who just came up behind Fondriest. The next group over was in fact Luc Leblanc, 2 minutes 52 seconds down as we're on the way down here now. Very, very treacherous descent indeed. This isn't for the nervous. Gianni Bugno, who's blown up without a shadow of a doubt, is in fact in a group with Moreno Argentin, 4 minutes and 13 seconds behind. They've come over the top. And this is Bruno Leali. He's in the next group. 5 minutes plus it's going to be for him. So, Bruno Leali's 3 days in pink are over, but he'll never forget them. Almost 6 minutes down, in fact, for Leali's group. Vladimir Pulnikov here, 14th overall in the race, now leading on the descent. But he's taken some risk to come down there and drop the group, and Indurain is not going to be in for that game, I don't think. Into Araba now. 12 kilometres left to go. That's the Campolongo climb still to come. And now they're just starting it. And again, immediately, Chiappucci attacks. And just look at the marking now by Miguel. Miguel is not going to let him go. These are the 2 riders who fought out the Tour of Italy for the past 2 years. Or rather, the past year. Because last year, although in fact Chiappucci has finished second the last 2 years, it was to Miguel Indurain last time out. But he's gone again. Such a determined rider, and quite clearly Chiappucci is feeling on good form today. A bad day yesterday. This was the day to have a good one. Indurain is giving nothing at all. Pulnikov is ahead by 22 seconds, but for the moment they're not going to worry about that. Tonkov still sitting in the back of this group. And you can hear the shouts of bravo, and indeed he must have taken some risks to get away on the descent to the Pordoi. Now he's trying to stay away on the climb of Campolongo. And here's the carrot that they hope will draw the sting of Indurain and allow the springboard for Claudio Chiappucci, the teammate, to jump away of Pulnikov. But they've caught him. And it looks as though Lely has also been dropped now. And there he is. And there's Tonkov. They've both been detached because of the constant attacking over the top of the Campolongo. And Chiappucci is led ahead of Indurain, Pulnikov. And a 6-second gap back to Lely and Tonkov. Ugrimov has been dropped yet again on the climb, has come over 22 seconds down. He's going to have to fight back. And Fondriest is over 2.5 minutes back. Hampsten even further. 4 kilometres to go to the finish. Well, this has been a real battle out in the Dolomites today. And it's been the names we expect. Indurain waited, but he pounced, and Chiappucci was able to go with him. Well, I say the names that we expect, but really Ugrimov has passed the test with flying colours. He's a name we're going to see in the future now, I'm sure of that. Sensational performance. He's been off the back like a yo-yo on the climbs. How can he get back and finish up in second place tonight? As we race down towards the finish of Kovara, the crowds are thinned out a little bit because the rain now is quite torrential, not like the weather when we rolled away from here 7.5 hours ago. And now can Indurain finish off with the victory? Taking the right hander very, very precariously indeed, and I don't blame them because those roads will be glacial. And in fact, we've got Pulnikov in second place behind Indurain here. Pulnikov, and I think behind Pulnikov is Kierpucci. No, he's not. Kierpucci is gone. He's taken his chance. He started on a very, very big gear, but he's got it going now. And Claudio Kierpucci completes a marvellous day for him. And there's a bit of daylight there. He may even get a second or so on that group if they give it to him. Kierpucci is going to take the stage here, and that's the first big win for him in the Tour of Italy. Claudio Kierpucci gets it. Terrific victory. And Claudio Kierpucci, remember now the words of Stephen Roach just 7.5 hours ago. He said if Kierpucci was feeling good, he'd hurt everybody. Well, he's done that now. Kierpucci winning indeed. They gave him 1 second over Indurain, Pulnikov, Tonkov, Lely and Ugrimov finishing just 20 seconds back. And so what a great result then for Claudio Kierpucci. An even better one though for Miguel Indurain. He's now back in the pink by 49 seconds. Ugrimov did get second place. Kierpucci up to third. Lely rode well today in fourth. And just look at that, 3 former Soviet riders now in the top 6 positions. And so, still a few mountains on the stage here, the 15th stage, but it hasn't been a race, you know, for Greg LeMond.
But also, I think when you come into a race like this, if you're not 100% prepared physically, the difference keeps getting bigger between the riders who are really well prepared, at the start, and the guys, like for me, I come in really not at my best, and I continue to get more and more tired while the guys who are well prepared continue to stay at the same level, and the difference becomes really big about the third week. But then after a little bit of rest, this is a great workload and your body usually responds to it, but it needs rest to adapt to it.
Well, Andy, just catching up on the news from yesterday?
Finding out what happened once I was out of there.
It was a pretty hard weekend for you though, because you were away in the breakaway on Saturday and then you had the big attacks yesterday from Kierpucci, Bugno.
Yeah, you know, I had a good race Saturday, but didn't end up with any time. I'm glad I did it, but I could have used a bit more reserves on the huge day on Sunday. But you know, I limited my losses as much as I could, but you know, the race went up the road without.
Well, maybe there'll be better things today, and Greg LeMond obviously riding on his reserves here, which is something he doesn't like to do. 258 kilometres, this 15th stage, taking them away from Kovara to Lumezzana. And now, man in yellow is Miguel Indurain. And there's a small breakaway here, getting away. Caruso, Shozas, Casani, Moreno, Saligara. The sort of names we haven't seen for a little bit, apart from Shozas, of course, and the gap is 11 minutes and 6 seconds. I suppose this was to be expected today. Miguel Indurain in control and making sure the men that matter are all around him. And we're just about 50 kilometres still to ride. And this is the breakaway, and little Mario Chiesa still looking for that stage win. He's had 1 second place so far. Number 152 here is Franco Chioccioli. They wouldn't let him go a couple of years ago when he was riding so well in the Tour of Italy, and the gap is coming tumbling down. 5 minutes 45 seconds now. Shozas on the right, number 22. And the little Kelmer rider here is Moreno, Luis Felipe Moreno. Now Casani's having a go on his own, telling us there he won Milan San Remo in 1991. Indeed he did. He also won a stage in the Giro too. He's yet to win a race this year as far as I know, and Casani is going to get it this time because he's gone clear. He's just making sure nobody's creeping up, but he's all smiles now, this little man. He's really come good these last couple of seasons, although he turned professional back in 1982. He didn't win much until 1990, but he's enjoying his twilight years as well, and he wins the stage today on his own indeed. as he looks back over his shoulder. In fact, the rest of the riders got wiped out in that breakaway, and Moreno Argentine swept in for second place ahead of Gipponi and Ugrimov. And in the end, no changes at all among the leaders. Indurain keeping his 49 seconds from Ugrimov, Chiappucci there, and Lelli. And the hills are now behind the riders on this 16th stage, 187 kilometres, taking the riders to Borgo Val di Taro, and another beautiful town in northern Italy. Beautiful castle here at the Compiano. And not surprisingly, a breakaway forming at the front here. Riders Carlo Finco, Evgeny Berzin, former world champion from Russia, and Andrei Teteriuk from the Mape attacker and team, and they're all attacking, and quite frankly it's the sort of breakaway you'd expect as the field relaxes now. But they've only got 58 seconds over the field, and it looks as though they may well be hauling them back. It should be a battle of the sprinters again now. We're looking for Adriano Baffi, who's got the lead in this race on points competition, just 8 kilometres from the finish. I doubt very much whether they'll hang on once the sprinters start bringing their teams forward. And in fact, there's a lot of counter-attacks, and can you believe this? Claudio Chiappucci goes again. You expect him to attack on the mountains, and he does, and as soon as he sees a chance he goes away once more on the flat roads. And not surprisingly, Indurain has spotted it and comes immediately behind and closes it down. He is remarkable, Miguel Indurain. He watches everything as if he's sitting in an armchair, and when he sees something going he doesn't like, off he goes to bring it back. The race then is coming all together, and no one now out in front, and a chance for the sprinters again to have their day in Val di Taro. And here they come, and Fondriest is going to have a go now. That'll upset the sprinters. Fondriest is going, but Fabio Baldato is also here, and the Fondriest coming up to the line, but I think he's lost it. It was close, but the Baldato on the far side, oh, it couldn't be much closer, could it? And Baldato gets the stage win, Fondriest second, Fontanelli is third, and nowhere there was Adriano Baffi. And with the field more or less all coming in together, there was no change overall. And look at that, there it is, 49 seconds. Ugrimov still looking for to win this year's Giro d'Italia. He'll have a job in his hands too, because the time trial's still to come, but not today. 17th stage, 223 kilometres, Varese, heading off now to Val Vareta. And this is a little bit of an attack that's gone clear. Bortolami is in this move here. Santa Romita is here. Salagari is also here. And they've been out in front today since 12 kilometres into the stage. Marco Saligari, 64th overall, and 40 kilometres to go to the line, and he's really making the rest of the riders suffer a little bit now. He's managed to drop Bortolami and Santa Romita. He's shaken them off. It's a long way to go to the finish though, but it's the sort of day when a long breakaway might happen. Sorry about the little bit of picture breakup. These pictures are coming from Italian television, and the microwave sometimes doesn't work quite how it should, but there's Salagari, and the gap is now 1 minute and 40 seconds. Well, the Aleostia boys have had a very, very good tour, even without Moreno Argentine, who himself, of course, has had a great tour. But it looks now as though Salagari, with almost 200 kilometres in the lead in his legs, is beginning to crack, and I'm not surprised. Gianni Bugno, hopelessly out of touch now in this year's race, riding alongside the number one. And the tempo, well, it's keeping going, but there's no real worry. And as always, Gerard Rouet, the French pacemaker for Indurain, at the head of that group. Well, back into the rain again, and Marco Saligari, well, it might help refresh him, but he'll be glad when the climb's are over for the day. He still has enough time in hand. He's about 1 minute 20 seconds ahead. And there you can see just how slowly he's climbing this hill, 15 kilometres an hour, about 10 miles an hour. Very, very tired indeed. And this is Stefano Bortolami and Mauro Santa Romita. They're a minute behind now. They're the riders that were left. So they've still got plenty of time in hand. They might well survive to the finish. There's the group. Indurain is happy to see his teammates keep the pace, all of the riders that matter around him. not going to make any heroics at all now to bring back these three leaders unless they come back under their own steam. And rather a cruel sting in the tail to a long, long breakaway. And quite clearly there, Bortolami not very happy by the support from the crowd. 12 minutes 48, no problems at all from the main field as they're running down towards the finish now. And a kilometre to go, and this has been a superb breakaway. It takes an awful lot to stay away. Marco Saligari, when he gets to the finish, he'll have been in the lead for 211 kilometres, and he's still just over a minute ahead of the two riders he left behind. He doesn't believe me though. Just making sure before he comes up to the line. Well, this is the hard way to win a stage in the Giro d'Italia, there's no doubt about that, but his legs will feel a bit better now he can see the finish line. And he comes up to the line. Well, has he got the strength to give us a two-handed victory salute? Because it's been a long, long, tough day, turning out in the end to be a wet day as well, but there we are. Not a very fast speed, and this is the slow motion sprint for second place. Bortolami taking it, woo, just about. And Santa Romita is in third place, about a minute 16 seconds behind. But Stefano Bortolami wins the stage, the pink jersey staying quite clearly on the shoulders of Indurain. A minute 12 he won by, 3 minutes 40 over Baffy, who came away from the bunch there to get a valuable fourth place in the points competition. The main field 9 minutes 16 seconds back. Indurain 49 seconds in the lead. Chiappucci is third, Lelli is fourth, and Maurizio Fondriest there in sixth place. Now we're on to stage 18, 148 kilometres, Samperi to Fasano. And so the GB Malefico Bianchi team here, 148 kilometres. And the riders now away from the mountains, and I think their chance to attack Indurain has gone for good, because tomorrow in the 55 kilometres time trial, surely he'll now seal his second victory consecutive in the Giro d'Italia. Nothing in this, there's a small breakaway, there's 12 seconds clear, and they should well sweep them up. There's 6 riders in this leading group as well. And there they are now in the sights, and they're going to wipe them out, and the riders are going to come together. This looks as though, in fact, it's Petaro trying to go clear. He's on the same team as Argentine and indeed Ugrimov, but they've wiped him up as well, and so they're all together. And again, we're now going to have it for the sprinters. And so Maurizio Fondriest has gone on the left of our picture. Fondriest has tried so hard to win a stage, and this time he may have it. Franco Coccioli is chasing him down now, but Fondriest is ripped away from the field here. Magnificent sprint from Fondriest. But that's a long, long way up to the finishing line. It's a long straight indeed, and Fondriest's legs are cracking a little bit. Adriano Baffy is coming through as well, and Baffy's coming very, very quickly. This will be win number 3, will it? Yes, it will. Adriano Baffy takes it on the line. The third win for him. A superb sprint indeed. And he's had 3 wins in the Giro d'Italia now, from Jan Zverada in second place, that's a new name, and Baldato is third. Overall, no change on the eve of the time trial. For the Maglia Rosa, Ugrimov 49 seconds back, and that should be a lot more after the time trial. Chiappucci 118 down. This is the time trial route, and it is a difficult time trial as well, taking them to Sestriere, to mountain time trial, and here's Sestriere, and this is where Claudio Chiappucci had his greatest day in the Tour de France when he won a stage here a year ago, after being in the lead for most of the day over the big mountains of the Alps. These are the Italian Alps, and the snow's still here, because of course we're only in the month of June, but thankfully the snow on the roads is gone.
Well, as Phil Liggett would surely say, the sky is shedding tears of sorrow for many of the riders here in today's Giro d'Italia, because the heavens have really opened. But maybe that won't be so bad for Stephen Roche, riding in his last Giro d'Italia, probably his last Tour de France. Maybe with the Irish weather that's come down upon us, he'll be able to put up a good performance. Miguel Indurain doesn't like the rain, Claudio Chiappucci adores it. But is that going to be enough to change the inevitable?
Claudio Chiappucci not feeling very well with a high temperature last night. Now wearing the colours of the King of the Mountains for this year and defending the title from last. there's no doubt as to who the crowd likes in the Giro d'Italia. Now Peter Ugramov, who really has been the sensation. Second in the race, sixth in the King of the Mountains, 49 seconds off the pink jersey of Miguel Indurain. This will have to be something special though if he's going to win this race now. And here is Claudio Chiappucci, and it looked to me as though he dropped a gear there, because I think in fact he's preparing to change his machine just as Stephen Roach did. It's all part of the plan from Carrera. Changing machines for the climbs, off goes the helmet for the big climb up to the finish as well, and very quickly Chiappucci back on the bike, and I don't think the spectator will be too welcome. So Claudio is now up and running again, a good change, gambling a few seconds. Argentin coming up to the finish, aiming for the time of Zenon Jaskula of 1:39.17. He's going to get this man is transformed this year in the Giro. He's now the best time by 31 seconds, but of course the big boy is still the finish, but Argentin is assuring himself of a high finish in this year's Giro. Miguel Indurain settled down once more into the style we've all come to know so well, while Stephen Roach arrives at Sestriere. And for him too, he's aiming for the time there. Argentin still number 1, Roach is number 20 on the line. Now Peter Ugramov also thrown away the helmet. Now the climbs have begun, and he's finding this a very difficult climb indeed. And the smoother pedalling Indurain now starting behind Ugramov. He hasn't got him in his sights at least, and Ugramov is in fact going past Claudio Chiappucci. So that's a good catch for Ugramov, assuring himself of second place, and will it be first when we see the times at the finish? Chiappucci has never enjoyed time triallings, even when they do go uphill. So the road to Sestriere this year not as happy as last year in the Tour de France. Ugramov coming up, and it's going to be the best time. This again a superb ride in defence. Ugramov in with the best time, 1 hour 37, 14.3. Just pipping there, Argentin. And Chiappucci then finishes. He's losing time though. He's going to perhaps make a top 12 finish here as the clock counts it down. 8th place in fact for Chiappucci, but even so it's a good time. He's not conceding too much time on such a difficult ride. He's conceded a lot more than that in the past. Indurain though is clearly going to win this, and nobody's going to stop him taking the second successive Giro d'Italia now. Indurain in the rain is over the top. The time to beat of Ugramov. He's going to increase his lead overall with yet another superb time trial, perhaps not quite as fast as we expect from this man. He usually wins by minutes, but Indurain nonetheless is going to win his second time trial straight in this year's Tour, and he's going to win it well. Just inside a minute, 45 seconds better than Ugramov. Indurain has increased his lead now by that much, and there it is, 45 seconds he wins by. Argentin, brilliant third place for him. Jaskula time trialling well for 4th. Overall though, Indurain now leading the race with 2 days to go by 1 minute and 34 seconds. Chiappucci brings the rest home, but they're absolutely nowhere. And this is the stage they face, the 20th stage, 172 kilometres from Torino to Europa. And the spectators here in Torino, but sadly I can tell you no Greg LeMond signing on today. Greg LeMond has withdrawn from the Giro d'Italia. So a lot of work to be done if LeMond is going to come into the Tour de France in a few weeks' time. And the big cheers from the town of Torino as the survivors of the Tour de France now facing up to the final weekend of racing. Claudio Chiappucci, well, seemingly still good friends with Miguel Indurain, despite suffering another heavy defeat in the time trial to him. But I think they'll agree now, this last weekend of flat stages, flat roads, the race is over as far as the race to the Maglia Rosa goes at least. But there's always the stages to be won. This is Rondon from Gatorade. And this is a long climb. It's some 10 kilometres up to the finish line today, and Rondon has got the pace, and that's Girotto in second place. The champion of Italy, Giovanetti. We haven't seen too much of him in the last 3 weeks either. And the race now beginning to split up heavily here. But that little breakaway group is making ground. And Belli trying to do something about it. There's still always riders want to win stages. There are the positions in the overall classifications on the screen. He's 16th in the race, but this is Moreno Argentin now. who is trying to pull away here from the group, but Indurain has got him right in his sights. He really has had a superb race. And the rider in the trouble here is Belli, so he really is unlucky with an attack that has been hampered now by a puncture. Not too pleased, although he did have the good manners to say thank you there. Vladimir Belli, 23 years of age. And Ugramov, can you believe this? Ugramov is attacking Indurain. He is not going to give away this tour. This is his last possible chance on this 10-kilometre climb up to the finish in Europa. And Indurain is marking him closely. In fact, Ugramov has pulled Indurain clear of the rest of the group. Well, this is a superb show by the Mechia rider, Peter Ugramov, and he's going to go out of this race fighting. The only way to beat Miguel Indurain is to attack him as often as you have the legs to do so. Because if you give him the ride that he so often seems to get, he sits there, he watches, he pounces only when he needs to. 6 kilometres to go to the summit and the line. And Ugramov setting the pace. Indurain just hanging on, and he looks as though he's trying at the moment. They're the first 4 riders, and it looks as though Rondon is hanging on at the group in front. 3 and 40 minutes, 3 minutes 25 in the lead. That will assure them of the victory, but this is where the race is today. And Indurain is finding it increasingly difficult here to hang on to Ugramov, and this is a superb piece of riding, because Ugramov is doing all of the work. Now Indurain trying to get alongside him as if to discourage him making the effort, but he's gone away now. This time Ugramov has gone, and you can see Indurain in the distance. He's pulling back a few seconds. He won't pull back more than a minute, I don't think. There's not enough time left, and that may be why Indurain has decided now it's okay to let him go. He can't get the time back that will take away his race lead. But Peter Ugramov is going out of the Giro this weekend in flying colours. Superb piece of riding. He's got 15 seconds back. At this rate, he's going to pull back all of the time he conceded in the time trial, while the battle up front is also cracking under the pressure. Indurain there, hanging off at the back. And now, what does it feel like to be so lonely? In the leadership of the Giro d'Italia, you don't often see Miguel Indurain in so much trouble. But he's now settling into a rhythm to limit his losses to this rider. Peter Ugramov has turned out to be a superb sensation in this year's Giro, and he's got a gap. Stephen Roche in a little bit of trouble, trying now to nurse. In fact, Chiappucci up here, Roche is hanging back for him to keep him in his 3rd place overall. This long climb has turned out to be a really difficult twilight zone for these riders. And in fact, Roche is so strong he could ride away from Chiappucci, but that's not the name of the game. He wants Chiappucci to take 3rd place after finishing 2nd for the past 2 years. And the crowd want him to do so as well. This is Girotto, and it looks as though he may have gone clear of that chase group of Giovanetti and Madouas and Rondon. And Massimo Girotto has won a couple of stages in the Tour de France. One of them I can remember was in Geneva. I think the other one was in Lyon, but I'm not too sure about that. It doesn't matter. Right now, he's set to win here in Europa. And deservedly so, because he is an aggressive rider. And he's ridden well. He's left them all behind on the long, solid climb, which has turned out to cause a minor sensation here. A victory, though, to Massimo Girotto from the Mobili team. He gets the stage. The battle for 2nd place just in our camera lenses there, but we're going back to the real battle here for 2nd place and 1st place in the Giro d'Italia. And still it is Ugramov going clear, being joined by Stephen Roche, who's gritted his teeth. And Argentin is coming up as well. Remains to be inspired as Argentin in this race. He's riding superbly. He's watching his teammate fight it out, and Ugramov here will take 5th place on the day. 1 minute and 51.52 behind the winner, Girotto. But how much time is he gaining now over the pink jersey? This is Tonkov coming through. And at the back there, the green jersey of Claudio Chiappucci. They're 2 minutes off the lead, but they're 15 seconds away from Ugramov. That's what Chiappucci is sprinting for, to limit his losses. But there's minutes to 3rd place. The battle of this race now is between the top 2, and the pink jersey is in. And he's saved his jersey, but he's conceded time. And there aren't many who will be able to go home from this race and say that they hurt Miguel Indurain, but they have. And Peter Ugramov did it.
Stephen, I think that climb there took a lot of people by surprise, even Miguel Indurain.
We knew it was there, but like Miguel, I'm sure, lost a lot of energy yesterday, so was an ideal climb to attack him like.
What about Ugrimov? Because he flew up that mountain. He attacked so many times and Indurain just couldn't stay with him.
Yeah, it was very excellent. You know, it was a pity like Capucci still hasn't recovered from his sickness of the other day because he was stopped, you know. But it's the way it goes, you know.
But you did a fantastic ride there. You must be very pleased with yourself and looking forward to the Tour now.
Definitely, you know, like I waited for Capucci a lot of times. Like I brought him back onto the group a few times also, but you know, in the end he just told me, Stephen, go, you know. So I went to chase after Ugrimov, like I caught him, but like I used to have so much energy catching him like that I could only hang on to him when I caught him, you know.
Pretty exciting end to the Giro because everybody thought it was over and done with, and Ugrimov nearly stole the show.
Well, I'm glad for one thing. Like I've always said that Indurain was beatable, and everybody said, well, this guy's unbeatable. There's no point in attacking him. So now we can see, like, if Argentina had ridden with me the other day, it might have changed everything, you know. So maybe next year it'll be different.
Maybe it will indeed, but Stephen Roach won't be there. Massimo Girotto getting the stage, and Giovanetti and Madouas, Rondon, Ugrimov, and Roach coming in well too. 58 seconds is now the gap. Ugrimov pulling back 35 seconds in that last minute attack. He's got 1 day left now to win the race, and that surely is an impossible task. The race now moving on the outskirts, heading in from Biella to Milano. A big finish today, and the riders now will be counting the kilometres into Milano. This beautiful, beautiful city, and the Italians will welcome home what has been an extremely hard-fought Giro d'Italia. It's found a leader in Argentin, then Indurain, then Liali, and finally Indurain with a great fighter in Peter Ugrimov. The pressure is off now, and Indurain bringing his guard around him. The Banesto boys guiding their leader, as they did last year, to what will be the second victory consecutive in the Giro d'Italia. And almost by tradition now, this will be a sprint finish. It'll be a question of whether Baldato or Baffi or maybe somebody else like Fondriest will snatch the stage. Baffi has won 3 stages. His first 3 wins of the year have all been collected here in the Tour of Italy. He won't be unhappy about that either. And now again it's Maurizio Fondriest who's going to try and clean up. Look at this magnificent crowd here in Milan. And Fondriest is leading them out, but it's going to be a real hard tussle here as they come up towards the line, and Baldato is also coming, and this is going to be a very, very close sprint indeed. Baldato breaks now, and Fabio Baldato, can he make it 3? He's taking on Baffi, they're going for it shoulder to shoulder. A tremendous sprint finish, and Baldato takes it on the right of our picture. So Fabio Baldato, win number 3 for him. It won't affect the overall situation, but everybody wants to win. There's Liali, 3 days in pink for him, and the Mercatoni Uno team will feel a job well done. Miguel Indurain, for the second time, taking the victory for Spain. And last year, of course, he was the first ever Spanish winner. Now he has 2 wins, and indeed, with the Tour de France coming up, he remains a favourite.
Well, there is the final confirmation of this year's Giro d'Italia, and we've been waiting for that. Miguel Indurain, the wearer of the final pink jersey, but the 2 men alongside him, Pietro Ugrimov and Claudio Chiappucci, pushed him all the way. Pietro Ugrimov, even on the final Saturday, put Indurain into difficulty, and I'm sure the man that they were beginning to think was unbeatable will now go to the Tour de France thinking that his rivals will certainly try and attack him in the mountains. Well, I'm Paul Sherwin. I've really enjoyed doing this Giro d'Italia with you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and you'll come back and join us for famous cycling videos coverage of this year's Tour de France.
Thank you, Paul. And on the podium, Miguel Indurain, from a great fighter, Peter Ugrimov. Claudio Chiappucci makes it as well, wearing the green jersey as King of the Mountains, repeating his title of a year ago. The team, by the way, was won by Lampre, Fondriest's team, and the best young rider for the second year was Pavel Tonkov. 58 seconds though, that was the gap. Ugrimov up to Indurain, and then almost 5.5 minutes to Chiappucci. What a race.